right, guys, welcome back to Downtown Rams. As always, I'm your host, Alexis Kraft, joined here with my co-host, Jake Ellenbogen, and we are coming to you after the Rams' Week 3 loss against the Cincinnati Bengals on Monday night in Cincinnati, where the Rams lost 16-19. And guys, this was the most frustrating game I think I've seen the Rams play in a long time, just from top to bottom. I know Jake and I feel pretty much the exact same about this game, so I don't need to sit here and talk about every single thing that pissed us off last night. But essentially, guys, the Rams lost a game that they really had no business losing. The Rams play calling lost us this game. And Jake and I are going to go into what that entailed. Yes, there was a couple mishaps. There was, the tutu atwell touchdown, which in my opinion was a touchdown. It should have been called back. A couple calls that were questionable, but at the end of the day, the Rams really have no one to blame but themselves, particularly Sean McVay, who, in my opinion, and I know Jake's opinion, is the reason that the Rams lost this game to the Bengals. And we're going to get into what that means. But Jake, I mean, first off, people watching, do I look well right now? Do I look
You look
well?
fine.
Do I look healthy to you? Do I look like a woman who is sane and healthy and thriving and happy? No, I don't. I'm in shambles. You know why? I literally was so angry going to bed last night. I woke up angry. I was angry all day. I literally, right now, guys, like my immune system, I felt my immune system from anger like go down. This is the problem where sometimes it's bad to be this invested in a team because I'm literally like my glasses are on, which I don't normally wear when we record this, but like my eyesight today started going. I was like, this is it. The Rams have finally killed me. I'm like, my body is just shutting down, or just this is all coincidental starting last night. But no, I mean, I'm not well. I'm unwell. I mean, Jake, this game last night was from the first quarter, really. I mean, it was very obvious to me. Tutu Atwell touchdown aside, right? Because we actually looked pretty good on that first opening drive, and then the touchdown gets called back, whatever. So let's say after that drive, it became very apparent to me that the energy with this Rams team from the rip was off. And we weren't quite sure what that looked like. And then as the game went on offensively, because I think the defense had a pretty good game. So offensively, it was like Sean McVay was in panic mode after one drive. I don't know why that is. I don't know what's going on. And again, I keep saying we'll break it down because we will. But Jake, it was kind of like you and I have had this conversation before about Bill Belichick, how it's kind of like this self-sabotage, ego-driven way of being like, oh, so this is the most obvious thing to do. I'm not going to do that. And Bill Belichick, we see it all the time where he'll like cut a really good player or he'll like do some weird game plan thing and then the Patriots lose. And it almost comes off as Bill Belichick is like trying to do this like weird thing where I know something that you guys don't. Like I know everybody thinks that it should be A, so I'm going to do B and then B is going to work and everyone's going to be like, that's why he's a genius. It felt like when we were watching the McVay game last night, like the Rams game, it felt like he was doing the same thing. It was like, well, we're going up against the worst run defense in the league. Let's not run the ball against a defense that has just gave up 200 yards in the ground. Like, let's not run the ball. And we're going to prove that we can beat them by not doing that. That's what it felt like almost the whole game. Like it was an experiment almost. It was like, how can we win by not doing the obvious thing? And it was so infuriating to watch. And I'm not dissing Bill Belichick, by the way, obviously very good coach, but he's had some moments where, it's kind of like the coaching strategy of what everybody thinks you should do. I'm not going to do it. And when it works, it's going to be brilliant, but then it doesn't work. So Jake, other than my very sloppy intro that I just gave, because I'm getting angry, as I know that you can tell I am, what was your overall thoughts on this game? Like, just give it to it. Like, what was your brief kind of assessment?
Let me bring up my tweet so I have it organized here. Here's my document.
If you guys follow me on Twitter, I did the same thing. I mean, I was just off the rip, like
oh my
up
God.
to like 250 notifications. Like I was just pull up your document, court document A. Jake, let's hear it.
All right. Abandoning the run game when Kyren was able to run, and Cincy defense was giving up almost 200 a game. Anyway, not playing the guy they paid to be their left tackle of the future at left tackle when Jackson went down. Playing inexperienced Zach Thomas at said left tackle, not giving him any help against a fantastic player in Trey Hendrickson. Moving away from Puka Nacua after he just broke records, 1 target in the second half. Suppressing their motions that created so many mismatch and opportunities in the first 2 weeks. I see you right now. Wasting timeouts in a 1-possession game, a McVay specialty. Choosing to punt late in the game and not going for it on 4th and 5. Not mixing up personnel usage. Could have used 12 personnel, instead used mainly 11 the entire game. Not using Ben Skoranek in the backfield, and 0 creativity on the offense. Fiend. So, a lot of stuff there. Okay. Let's go from the top and all the way down. Kyren Williams. Let's start with Kyren. Okay.
Yes.
Kyren Williams did not have a great yards per carry. It does not matter, because if you look, 4 out of the 10 carries, as our guy Blaine brought up, had 8 to 9 yards in the 4 out of those 10 carries. He was going to have a good game. He was able to run against the Bengals defense. And honestly, those 10 carries, first off, you might want to cover your ears on this one. That was in 1-possession games. I went through every single Sean McVay 1-possession game today. That's 48 if you include the playoffs. This is the fewest amount of carries that a running back has ever had in a 1-possession Sean McVay playoff game. Sorry, not playoff, 1-possession game in general. That's 48 games, Alexis. By the way, when they run the ball 30 plus times with running backs, they're 5-0. 25 to 29 carries, they're 6-2. 20 to 24 carries, they're 8-6. 15 to 19 carries, they're 10-9. And 14 or fewer carries in 1-possession games. By the way, back-to-back games with Kyren Williams, they're 0-2.
Adds up.
So Kyren was able to run against the Cincinnati defense. It was clear, like you mentioned, their defense was not great coming into this game, almost giving up 200 to both teams back-to-back. So let's talk about that for a second. Why do you think? Because I know this is a real question, because if you think about it, Alexis, like, we can sit here, we're big fans of Kyren Williams. We believe in him. He proved us right the first 2 weeks, leading the league in touchdowns for running back. Now it's not going to be possible because 2 guys on the Dolphins had 4 touchdowns. So Dolphins scored 8 touchdowns with running backs, and the Rams couldn't use Kyren Williams at the goal line. Make it make sense. But the big thing here is that after this game, a lot of people have come to the conclusion that the Rams need another running back. Do you think that they used Kyren every single play and only gave him 10 carries because they don't believe in Kyren as a runner? Or do you think it was more so Sean McVay just flat out, forgot to run the football? Because you know where I stand on that.
It has nothing to do with Kyren. It has everything to do with Sean McVay not liking to run the ball. And you know how I know that? Because you and I have been doing this show for 4 seasons with Sean McVay as the head coach, and we've said the same thing
every year.
I mean, it doesn't matter who the running back is. So no, it has nothing to do with Kyren. I mean, when he came out of the gate this game, we'll just talk about this game. They didn't even try to run the ball. They did not. This was not like they tried the entire first half of the game, weren't having success in the run game, and then in the second half, we're like, you know what? We're done with that. They didn't even try. 10 in 4 quarters of football, they tried to run the ball.
2 of those were when it was a 3rd and long and they were giving up.
Yeah, exactly. So really 8 times. That's twice each quarter of football. And guess what? If you look at the numbers, each run was successful except for one. That was a tackle for loss, and that was because of a misblocking assignment off the offensive line where the linebacker just can't, no one blocked him. I mean, that play didn't have a chance from the jump. So 99% of the run plays were positive yardage. I mean, Kyren was, I don't have the number in front of me, like, what, 4 yards per carry average when he actually ran the ball? Maybe a little less than that because of the tackle for loss. I mean,
yeah, it was 3.6, but
yeah,
really,
so,
in actuality, he was probably around a 4.0,
yeah.
4.1.
I mean, we watched him have success running the football like we have all season. If you go and put together all of his runs, then, I mean, I'd be willing to say 85 to 90% are of positive yardage. He doesn't have many tackles for loss. But yeah, it was just infuriating because you and I especially were like, Kyren's gonna have a really big game. We're going up against a terrible run defense statistically. Like, that's, I mean, almost 200 yards right on the ground. And it felt like McVay just fell back into this pattern that he has where he just does not like to run the football. He is obsessed with the pass. And guess what? It wasn't working, right? So it's not like we were having a ton of success. Stafford was, and I think part of it had to do with the offensive line. Part of it, I think he just had an off night. His accuracy was really bad in the first half. He had a couple good throws, one to Puka, a couple to Tutu. Give him credit there, not easy throws to make. But first off, he missed Kyren 3 plays in a row that were like not even remotely close to him.
He wasn't throwing to Kyren. He was going for the alley-oop to Victor Wembanyama.
I mean, literally, it was like not even. So I don't know if he was overthinking it because Kyren's not even that short for a running back, but you could say he's shorter. So I don't know what was going on there, but Stafford looked off. It didn't help later in the game when the offensive line started having problems. But I mean, man, run the ball. Like, oh my God. Like, it was literally right there, McVay. It was right there. The recipe was handed to you on a golden platter, and it basically, like, everything in the book told you to run the ball. There are some people who are like, well, maybe he doesn't trust Kyren to be the 20. He didn't give it to him at all. How can you say that? It's not like he ran Kyren for the entire first half of the game, like we talked about earlier, and then was like, oh, we're not going to run the ball anymore. I mean, he didn't even try.
No, I mean, it's not Kyren, because here's the thing. I'm going to go through. I'm going to give you an example of each year that Sean McVay has been a head coach for the Rams. You ready for this? 2017, week 14 against the Eagles, they lost 43-35. That was the Carson Wentz MVP show before he tore his ACL. He tore it in that game. Todd Gurley, in a 1-possession game, had 13 carries for 96 yards and 2 touchdowns. That's a really good day, but why did he only have 13 carries when they clearly couldn't stop him and they ended up losing that game? So that's just an example from his rookie year, right? You could also go back his rookie year. I'll throw this in as a bonus. Sean McVay's first ever loss, Sean McVay's first ever 1-possession game was against his former Washington Redskins at the time team. Gurley goes for 16 carries for 88 yards and a touchdown in a 27-20 loss. Why didn't they keep running it with Gurley? They couldn't stop him. So then you go to 2018, okay? And I could bring up a 2018 moment. I mean, I could bring up a few, but I'm going to bring up the New England game in the Super Bowl, which is technically 2019. Why is Todd Gurley only getting 10 carries in the Super Bowl? That's a fair question. Todd Gurley and CJ Anderson both went over 100 yards on the ground against Dallas in that same playoff run. So why do we act like, oh, Todd Gurley was done, like his knee is shot? No. Sean McVay clearly just abandoned the run in the biggest game. So now we look at 2019, okay? And that was not great. I only have one to take away here. Was not a 1-possession game. This was a blowout where you and I were recording in the third quarter. I think you already know where I'm going with this. The Baltimore Ravens game where Lamar Jackson had 5 touchdown passes. Now, we look at it. Well, the Rams lost 45-6, Jake. Why are you bringing it up? Well, here's why I'm bringing it up. Why did Todd Gurley have 6 carries in that game? You see, you could say, oh, well, they got blown out and they had to keep throwing. That's the problem. is that Sean McVay's not running the ball when he has to. And then when like he needs to, or like when he should, he's not running the ball. So like he's just not running the ball. So then 2020, the divisional round of the playoffs against Green Bay, they lose 32-18. What was the story in that one? Jared Goff playing through an injury, looking pretty decent without Cooper Kupp. Aaron Donald was hurt. But what was the big thing in that? It was the fact that Bobby Evans was a turnstile in getting Jared Goff killed. However, somehow miraculously, with that offensive line, Cam Akers had 18 carries for 90 yards. They stopped running the ball. That game could have been different. 2021, Alexis. The San Francisco, actually, I'll bring up a few of these. The Tampa Bay, or sorry, no. I'll bring up two. Tennessee. Remember 28-16, Sunday Night Football, when Al Michaels said, I don't even know if this team wants to be in prime time anymore. Like, I remember him saying that. I was like, oh, Lord, we're that team now. 11 carries for 55 yards, Darrell Henderson. They lost by 12. Completely abandoned the run. Henderson's averaging 5.5. So, Alexis, if you're doing the math, I've named Todd Gurley, Cam Akers, C.J. Anderson, and Darrell Henderson, right? So that's 4 people so far, 4 different running backs. Let's look at the San Francisco game that year, 2021, 31-10. Okay. That game was brutal, right? But why is Henderson getting 5 carries for 31 yards? That's over 6 yards a carry. Sony Michel got 4 carries for 20 yards. That's 5 yards a carry. Sean McVay abandoned the run and they went down big because now everybody and their mother knows that you're throwing the football. So I don't have to worry about the run game. Now we look at 2022. Tampa Bay. 16-13 ball game. Remember that? Tom Brady got the last laugh. 12 carries, 56 yards for Darrell Henderson. Abandoned the run in a game that was a 1-possession game by a field goal. How do you do that? So then, it gets worse. I mean, the 7 carries Henderson got in the 24-9 primetime loss to the 49ers week 4 of 2022. And then you look at the Buffalo game. I mean, the Buffalo game, everyone looks, 31-10. The Rams were in that game going into the fourth quarter. It was a 1-possession game. They stopped running the ball. Henderson got 13 carries. That was it. I don't even think they gave Akers a carry. So you look at 2023. Kyron gets 14 carries in a game which is neck and neck with San Francisco. They abandoned the run, 52 yards. Last night, 10 carries, 38 yards. That's it. That's the fewest. So what do you take away from this, Alexis? Well, you can take away from the fact that it's not Kyron Williams. I just named Kyron Williams. I named Gurley. I named Henderson. I named Sony Michel, C.J. Anderson, Cam Akers. Hell, Tavon Austin's in here. So you're talking 7 running backs that he's just abandoned the run with that have been playing well. And so this isn't just a Kyron Williams issue. That's an excuse, and that's a defense for Sean McVay. The reason why this is concerning, I'm not concerned about the Rams moving forward. I think this is a bad night. But the reason why this is a concern for me, Alexis, this like managing the run, is because we were told all off season they got a new run game. They got a new blocking scheme. This is a new offense. They're going to balance it out. Week 1, they ran the ball 40 times. Where has that been in the last 2 weeks? And so it makes me wonder if, when things go right, Sean McVay is going to run the ball. Sean McVay is going to stick to the game plan. But things aren't always going to go right. Sean McVay's been in 48 1-possession games, and in those, he's only run the ball 30-plus times. Literally, 5 times in his career? 5 times in his career, and they're 5-0. So that's that. They're not that team because Sean McVay, simply put, just doesn't allow them to be that team. He overdoes it. He overthinks. And oh, by the way, the big thing here, Alexis, that does not get talked about enough, he's going up against Zach Taylor, who was on his coaching staff and knows that he's overthinking and knows how this guy works. And so it's even double frustrating because now you're going up against somebody that knows exactly how you are about the run game, and you're trying to outsmart them, but they already knew what you were doing to begin with. So, yeah.
Well, what it looks like, it feels like he gets bored of the run game. Like, that's what it feels like. He's like, oh, well, because it was working, right? And then it's like, well, okay, I like the pass. I want to go back to the pass. I'm bored of that. We're done with that. And like you said, it's also, yeah, it's not just a Kyron thing. It's literally every running back that has been on the Rams since McVay's been a coach.
Yeah.
And I'm sick of screaming it, especially in games where it's so obvious, like run the ball off the rip. Like don't, because like you mentioned earlier, you need to be doing it in the beginning. If you fall behind when you've been running the ball, yes, then you're in the position in the third and fourth quarter where you got to start slinging it. You can't run the ball. You got to score. You got to throw downfield. Fine. But to not be doing it off the rip, then it's like you're not even trying. You're not even attempting. And then, you just, it's so frustrating to watch. And people who weren't Rams fans, if they watched that game, I'm sure they probably were like, oh, the Rams never run the ball. That's really weird. I mean, 10 carries, but really 8 because 2 were on third and long. I think
you'd find funny. There was a Kyron Williams. I don't remember who it was, but I saw it earlier today and I just laughed. So this Kyron Williams fantasy owner was like, I didn't understand how Kyron Williams was just magically getting all of these points on my fantasy team. And then I watched last night and I really don't understand because they don't even use that guy. I was like, I saw the tweet and it's like, is he teleporting into the end zone? Like, how is he I'm convinced Sean McVay doesn't even run the ball. Like, I'm convinced now that there's an issue with my league. And he was just going on and on and on. Like, there's this biggest conspiracy or whatever. Like, I don't even believe Kyron actually scored touchdowns now because Sean McVay doesn't run the football.
You wouldn't if you would never last night was just so, especially for Kyron has been lightning in the red zone when you run the ball. Like it was so obvious. There were so many 3rd and 1s, run the ball. You didn't run the ball in the red zone. And then there was the catch by Kyron that he didn't catch. I agree. He should have caught it, but I will say that ball was also high. If you go back and rewatch it, I think he should have caught it. I still think he probably should have caught it, but it also was high. Every ball that was thrown to him last night was high, except for the one that ended up getting called back because Stafford was on his knee. That would have been really cool if he would have pulled off, if they wouldn't have called it back, because
it makes you wonder what situation happens there. They had to punt and it wasn't a great punt. I mean, you do what you can. But I mean, if they're down now, it's 4th and 1, you go for it, say you get it, maybe there's some momentum. I mean, it's just so frustrating because the real elephant in the room was the fact that obviously it's the running game. The fact that this team went from abysmal last year on the offensive side of the ball to having protection. This team went from abysmal last year on the offensive side of the ball in the red zone to being the #1 red zone offense going into this game. This team went from being awful on 3rd downs to being the best 3rd down offense in the league. And how they do that is because they didn't abandon any component of their offense. They used it both. Now, I will say with the Niners game, I gave him a pass for only giving 14 carries for Kyron because, to your point, they lose the lead there, and then you could start to see the Niners gaining some momentum. So now I have to throw it. I'm running out of time, But in this game, you're up 6-3, you're up 9-6. Just no excuse. Like Sean McVay the entire time. It'd be different, Alexis, if things changed and maybe they something happened or whatever in the second half and it just totally changed. We saw this. Every Rams fan that has been watching the Rams saw a loss when they were up 3-0, when they were up 6-3, when they were up 9-6, when it was tied. They knew the Rams were not winning this type of game. And it stems from the fact, even though I can give all the credit in the world to Sean McVay, call him one of the best coaches in football, he's probably going to retire as one of the greatest coaches of all time. But he's still got the biggest Achilles heel, and that is clock management with his wasted timeouts, and that is managing the run and the pass, balancing out the offense. If he balanced out the offense a little bit better, then I think the Rams are 3-0 right now. I don't think that's crazy to say. And I think that there are probably some running backs in the past that have kind of fallen off the radar. I mean, who's to say Todd Gurley's career goes the way it does if he wins the Super Bowl? Only 10 carries, That's the thing. To me, I see it like I see it. McVay is outstanding, but and people bring it up all the time. We're looking at Mike Martz because Mike Martz was an offensive genius. Mike Martz was the mad scientist, but he would waste timeouts like crazy and he would abandon the run, and because he wanted to go with the flashy passing attack. And then you get it, of course, because you have Isaac Bruce and Torrey Holt and Kurt Warner and Mark Bulger and Steven Jackson and Marshall Faulk. I get that. But like right now, what you don't have Cooper Kupp right now. So as great as Puka is looking, as great as Tutu is looking, you need to be aware. You need to be mindful of the fact that now defenses are going to try to take those guys away. And the thing that actually concerned me, Alexis, about Sean McVay was his presser. Because I don't know if you saw it. There's no way you saw it. No chance. You did not put yourself through that. No. Sean McVay's presser, he was asked why he abandoned the run, essentially. I don't remember the question because the Rams don't mic up the questions. I don't know why. But one of the reporters asked him basically why he stopped running the football. He's like, yeah, you try to, get some runs out there. And he's like, I thought we had some good looks based on some structures they were showing. And I'm thinking, I'm like, yeah, you realize what that is, right? Lou Anarumo was baiting you to throw the football. And it worked. The defensive coordinator of the Bengals is a freak. He's so good. They call him Lou Dini. Okay. That's what he was doing, Alexis. And he knew Sean McVay was going to bite because he's saying pre-snap and things like that. We liked what we saw and it was exactly what we thought, but you still couldn't make anything happen. Now, to be fair, Matthew Stafford missed on a few throws that I think he's definitely going to want back. To be fair to him, he was pressured all night. So it's one of those games where it's almost like 19-16. It feels in a sense like they 100% should have won the game, but then almost everything going that poorly for them and they still almost won is almost an accomplishment in itself. But that's not the offense. That's the defense. And we're going to have to get into that because the defense is like the only saving grace of this game, and maybe Tutu Atwell, and maybe the fact, well, not saving grace, but they also took 2 touchdowns off the board with the Rams. But the game went on. Those weren't fourth down plays. Those were, now you get a first down, you get a chance, and the Rams just didn't capitalize. But the defense, however, was the main reason why they were in this game. And I'll send it to you, but I'll just say this right now. I don't want to hear any more Raheem Morris hate. I don't. He's doing it without Leonard Floyd. He's doing it without Jalen Ramsey, Bobby Wagner, Greg Gaines, Ashawn Robinson, Nick Scott, Taylor Rapp, whoever you want to throw out there. He's doing it without all of them. So, what's the excuse now?
Right. No, I totally agree. I mean, the defense is what stopped this game from potentially getting out of hand. I mean, listen, Joe Burrow was injured. Yes, but he's still Joe Burrow. So, you have Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd, Joe Mix. I mean, that's a very talented offense. And the Rams pretty much stopped everybody except for Jamar Chase. And honestly, I think the strategy was more just contained. I mean, he's a very talented player. It's very hard to just totally stop Jamar Chase, but the Rams didn't allow him to fully, break away and become a problem. And I think that's impressive. I thought that they did bend, don't break very well, especially in regards to defending Jamar Chase. I thought Witherspoon had a really good game. He had the interception. Kendrick didn't look too bad. Jacoby Durant looked good. Byron Young, Aaron Donald, obviously. Just imagine what this defense could do if they could rush the quarterback. I mean, my God, if they could just quite literally get anybody opposite of Byron Young, anybody. I mean, anybody who's halfway decent. I mean, this defense would really take a step forward. And it was frustrating to have to see them out there so much. You want to see a game where your offense is, dominating time of possession and doing really well and accomplishing things. And, we kept seeing our defense, which we love, but at the same time, it's like that usually is not a good sign if your defense can't get good rest in. But yeah, the Raheem Morris hate needs to stop. I mean, he's pretty much provided the same defense as he did with all the stars that Jake just mentioned. I mean, yes, there's some deficiencies there. It's not going to be perfect, but, they held, T. Higgins was pretty much invisible last night. Like I mentioned, Jamar Chase contained him as much as you could. The run game, I thought we did really well in stopping the run game. Joe Mixon didn't really have a lot of success. I mean, he did get the touchdown later on, but it's just a frustrating game. And I actually said to Jake before the game started, I was really frustrated because there was 2 Monday Night Football games and nobody was watching the Rams. And I was so annoyed. I texted Jake. I was like, literally, this is the Rams moment. Like, we get 2 primetime games this year. That's it, that we're on the schedule for. And I was like, in one of them, we're competing with another Monday Night Football game, and it's the Philadelphia Eagles, who everyone loves to watch. So I was so annoyed, and I was like, nobody is going to see what this Rams team can do, because everyone in the timeline who wasn't a Rams fan was watching the other game. So I was really genuinely annoyed. I was like, you know what? Nobody could see this rant. Like, I'm annoyed. I wanted them to watch and see all that the Rams could do, because I'm thinking we're going to go in and play like we've been playing and give a beat down to the Bengals. And halfway through that game, I was like, thank God nobody's watching this. Thank God the Eagles are also on tonight, because this is not the Rams team that I want people to see, and the Rams team that I believe overall that they are. I mean, it was bad. It was bad. And like I said, I mentioned, the penalties and the touch, they went to 1 anyway. With the way that game was being called, and the plays that they were running, and the inaccurate throws from Stafford, and the lack of the run game, and then the offensive line just folding, they went to 1 anyway. And guys, we lost by 3 points. So it wasn't like, anybody could have won that game, but it should never have gotten to that point. Because I really thought that the Rams had, and have the more talented roster. We have, a better coach. We should have, McVay's really got to do a lot of reflection after this, because every single person, it's not that often on Rams Twitter where everybody single-handedly agrees why a game was lost. And every single person that I saw on social media last night was like, this is the worst coaching that could have happened tonight. It was a unanimous vibe. And while that, doesn't happen very often, I was like, all right, at least we all can agree on something, even though it's something negative and not positive. But yeah, Jake, I just, you and I previewed this game, and we talked about the weaknesses of this Bengals team, and how they'd been playing pretty bad all year, and they had a hurt quarterback, even though he's Joe Burrow. He still was injured. Legitimately. And, he wasn't as active as he could have been last night. But I just really felt like, man, why are you not running the ball against a defense that literally can't stop the run, that they've proven all year they can't stop the run? And you have a running back on your team who is very good in the run game, and who you handed the reins to as your running back 1, got rid of Cam Akers. And then you're like, you know what? I don't want to run the ball tonight. And I don't know if it was because it was prime time and McVay was feeling himself and he wanted to prove something, if he wanted to, really outdo his former colleague, Zach Taylor. I don't know what it was, but
didn't work.
It gave me major PTSD flashbacks to run the damn ball. I thought we finally were going to be past that, and we're not. So whenever we talk about the game next week, we're gonna have to really keep
drive home the point.
I mean, yeah, if you're listening, man, you
he's not even on the Coach McVay show tonight. They had Les Snead fill in.
Of course they did. Whatever. Run the ball, man. I mean, it's not, the writing was up, like I said, it was handed to you and you didn't do it. And not everything has to be so overcomplicated. Not everything has to be flashy or the best play that we've ever seen or ingenious. Like it doesn't have to be like that. It really doesn't. It's actually super simple. It was a super simple way to beat the Bengals last night, and we didn't do it. So we didn't win. And now we're 1-2. Which is, like I said, just sad, because I don't think we should be.
I'll say this before we wrap it up here. I think understand Alexis and I are pro McVay. We're not. First off, if you're saying fire McVay, that's moronic. So stop that. But second, it's upsetting because like we have faith in McVay. We know what he's capable of. And that's the thing. When you see, when you don't have expectations for someone, you can't be disappointed. Like you can't be like, my expectations like didn't exist. Like I had no expectations, but I'm just like, it doesn't work that way. So when you set the bar, which McVay has, and then you hear all throughout the offseason, we've changed this, they've changed this is going to change. They brought in Mike LaFleur. And then he goes and does the exact opposite of what we're hearing is going to happen. And furthermore, the exact same thing of why last year went the way it did outside the injuries, things that you can control, McVay struggled with last year too. And that's the thing that's the frustration, is that you know he's so good that if he just cleans up his red zone play calling, which, by the way, he was first in the league before this game, if he just cleans up his red zone play calling and sticks to the run a little bit more and isn't ashamed to run the football, like he will be the best coach in the NFL. That's it. Full stop. That's it. He will be the best coach in the NFL once he finally figures how to manage the run, the pass, and balance out the offense and sticks to it. And not just when things go well, right? Not just when you're up 17, sticking with it when it's not working, sticking with it when you're in a close game. Those one possession games, you still need to stick with the run. Even against Seattle, Alexis, they ran it 40 times and they didn't have success. But do you know what happened? They did have success, because here's why. First off, they were able to pound 2 touchdowns in with Kyren Williams. Actually 3, one with Cam Akers, who's now on the Vikings. But furthermore, when you run the ball, it doesn't matter if you're not getting yards. You're still tiring out the defense, and then you can hit them with the passing attack. Now, in the 49er game, they passed to set up the run. That was fine. They knew they weren't going to run the ball immediately, like well, against the 49ers. So they were passing to set up the run. This game, I don't know what they were doing. I really don't. I feel like Ryan Clark at halftime said, you know, my guy is Tutu Atwell in this game. I think they're going to need to go deep down the field and take it. I was like, it's a tie ball game. Why are they taking deep shots down the field with Atwell? They need to keep the defense off the field. The problem with the Rams is that they were just letting the defense stay out there all game. They had the ball for 24 minutes to the Bengals 36. When you limit possessions and you don't allow the other team to get on the field to score points, that's how you win the game. And ultimately, that's what the Bengals did.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it was kind of reminiscent a little bit of the 49ers game, where there was still so much time left when everything was breaking down. Like I tweeted a few times last night. I was like, guys, we're in the third quarter with 3 minutes left. There's still so much time. We're down by 3, right? And it's like, guys, we're at the top of the fourth. It wasn't like all these things were happening because there was 2 minutes left in the game, 3 minutes left in the game, and the Rams were just blowing it. Like they were acting like we were in that situation when there was plenty of time left in the game, in either a tied game or you're down by a field goal. And that was so frustrating. It's like, you can run the ball here in the third quarter. Like you can. Like it's not too late. And I think it was 2 drives. It definitely was 2 drives in a row. It might have been 3, where the first play each time was that deep shot to Atwell that Stafford missed. He did it twice in a row. And I'm sitting there going, why are you doing, like, the Bengals caught on. And then everything got bad. And then we had the offensive line problems. Then we had the interception. And it was one of those games that was really hard to watch. I definitely feel like a lot of people probably stopped watching after the third quarter. I watched it till the very end.
I did too.
I don't care about my mental health. So I don't either. Grinded it out. But yeah, guys, not a good game from the Rams. It's certainly, this isn't like the loss to the 49ers where, um, I felt like with the 49ers, I think they're a Super Bowl caliber team. I've been honest about that. Jake's been honest about that. I mean, they're one of the last undefeated teams in the NFL. I thought we hung with them the whole game and we just didn't win. It's not fun, but it certainly isn't as bad of a feeling as going up against an injured and inefficient Bengals team that's 0-2 in a game that we certainly should have won. I mean, there's no excuse. To lose like that is very frustrating. It's very upsetting, and we can only hope that next week against the Colts, the Rams game plan changes. But we'll be back to preview that. Jake and I will later this week. We play the early slot next Sunday, which is unusual for the Rams. They're usually always a second game, but we are the 10 a.m. Pacific time, 1 p.m. Eastern time slot next week, which will be kind of a pleasant little change. But guys, that's it. That is it. We will be back, like I mentioned, but until then, guys, if you like what you hear, please like and subscribe. You can follow us on social media at Downtown Rams. You can follow me on Twitter at the Alexis Kraft. You can follow Jake at JKBogan. And guys, we'll be back soon. But until then, stay safe, take care, and go Rams.